Life doesn't get better without discomfort. We've all had those moments, failing at something we really wanted, ending a relationship, hitting a wall in our career. It's tempting to want to skip past the pain, to distract ourselves, or chase a quick fix. But what if these hard moments aren't just unfortunate roadblocks, but necessary steps in personal growth? That's the surprising insight behind the ancient framework of alchemy. While it sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, turning lead into gold, alchemy wasn't just about magic tricks. It was a philosophy of transformation. And its real target? You. One of its central ideas is that growth follows a clear, practical process, not through ease, but through intentional discomfort. Alchemists describe this journey in stages. The first one, calcination, a process that starts by burning away what no longer serves you. Think of calcination like clearing out a cluttered garage. At first, it's overwhelming. There's stuff you've held onto for years, some of it broken, most of it useless. Letting go feels tough, even irrational. But once it's gone, you're left with clarity and space to build something better. Calcination is just like that, but for your inner life. It's when life forces you to confront hard truths about your ego, your habits, your beliefs. It's the wake-up call you didn't want, but probably needed. And that's just the beginning. After the fire of calcination comes the next stage, dissolution, letting go. Not just intellectually, but emotionally, like cleaning up after the fire, washing away the ashes, sorting through the emotional residue, and learning to loosen your grip on control. What makes this ancient process surprisingly relevant today is how it flips our assumptions. We're taught to avoid pain, to find shortcuts, to optimize everything for comfort. Alchemy says the opposite. If you want real change, you have to go through it, not around it. These aren't abstract spiritual stages. They show up in real life all the time. When you finally end a toxic relationship after years of pretending it was fine. When you admit your job no longer aligns with who you are. When you stop numbing out and start asking uncomfortable questions. The beauty of the alchemical process is that it doesn't stop at breaking things down, it rebuilds. After letting go and clearing out, you begin to refine, reconnect, and eventually solidify into a clearer, stronger version of yourself. The final stage, coagulation, is when all the work pays off. You're not just healed, you're different, better, more you. This process isn't easy and it's not linear, but it's deeply human. And once you understand it, the hard moments in life begin to make more sense. What if the stress, confusion, or emotional pain you're feeling isn't a sign that something's wrong, but a sign that something important is trying to shift? That's one of the most powerful ideas behind the second stage of the alchemical process, dissolution. After the fire of calcination clears the way, dissolution is about letting go of the structures and assumptions that held everything together, even the ones you thought were part of who you are. It's a strange experience. Things feel uncertain. You may not recognize yourself for a while. That's the point. Think about someone who leaves a high-paying but unfulfilling job. At first, they feel lost. They question their decision, but slowly they start noticing the possibilities that were hidden before. A new interest, a creative spark, a different path. That space, the one between what used to be and what's not yet clear, is dissolution. It's not failure, it's a reset. The insight here is that you can't move forward until you release the version of yourself that no longer fits. We often try to skip this step by rushing into the next thing, but avoiding the discomfort just delays growth. If you can sit with it without trying to fix or escape it, you'll start to notice what actually matters. You don't need to have all the answers during this stage. What you need is honesty and time. Dissolution is when you begin to realize that most of what you thought was holding you together was actually holding you back. That's not weakness, that's the beginning of clarity. Once you've cleared the noise and let go of what doesn't serve you, the next step is separation. This is when you begin to see the difference between who you thought you were and who you really are. Think of cleaning out a junk drawer. At first, everything looks like a mess, but then you start sorting. This stays, this goes. That's what separation feels like internally. It's a process of sorting your values, your beliefs, your habits, and deciding which ones are truly yours. Here's a surprising insight. Most of us carry beliefs we never chose. They were handed down by family, culture, education, or past experiences. I need to be successful to be loved. I'm not creative. People won't accept me if I'm honest. These thoughts often run in the background, unnoticed, but they quietly shape our lives. Separation is the stage where you start questioning these messages. You look at each one and ask, is this true? Is this helping me grow? What's different about this stage is that it's not just about letting go, it's about choosing. You begin to keep the parts of yourself that are aligned with your real values. You rediscover things you forgot mattered to you, passions you put aside, opinions you never voiced, goals you were too afraid to pursue. And here's something crucial. Clarity doesn't always feel good at first. Seeing the truth about what you want, what you believe, and what you've been avoiding can be uncomfortable, but it's also empowering. When you know what's real, you can start building on it. In real life, this might look like saying no to things that no longer fit your priorities, making time for something that energizes you, even if no one else gets it, setting boundaries, even if it's hard. Separation is where your inner compass starts to come online. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest and building from a place that's finally real. After you've sorted through what's real and what's not in separation, conjunction is where things begin to come together. This is the stage where clarity turns into integration, when the different parts of yourself that used to conflict start to work together. One key insight here is that you don't have to choose between parts of yourself. You can combine them. You can be ambitious and still value rest. You can be analytical and creative. You can care about others without losing yourself. Conjunction is about finding balance between what seemed like opposites. It's the point where your internal work starts to show up in how you live. You stop acting out of old habits and start making choices that reflect your real values. And because of that, things start to feel more aligned, less forced. Here's a practical example. Maybe in separation, you realized you value independence and community. In conjunction, you look at how to build a life that supports both, like starting your own business and surrounding yourself with supportive people. It's no longer either or, it's both, and intentionally so. But here's the surprising part. Conjunction is less about big change and more about daily action. This is when you start turning insight into habits. You put your values into motion. You try, you adjust, and you live what you've learned. In real life, this might show up as making small, consistent choices that reflect your growth, being kinder to yourself without lowering your standards, showing up in relationships with honesty and boundaries, not just one or the other. Conjunction reminds us that transformation isn't just about deep realizations. It's about applying those realizations to real life. It's the beginning of wholeness, not perfection, but coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions start to align, things feel more grounded, more authentic, and less like you're fighting yourself. This is the turning point. You're not who you used to be, but you're not finished yet either. You're starting to live as the person you've been working to become. Once you've started living more in alignment, fermentation is what happens next. It's not just more clarity or better habits, it's a deeper shift. Something inside begins to grow. A new sense of direction, a renewed energy, a spark. This stage is about renewal, not just recovery. You're not going back to how things used to be. You're becoming something new. And often that new self comes with fresh inspiration you didn't see coming. Here's a practical example. Maybe after working through tough emotions, you suddenly feel excited to try something new. A project, a relationship, a career change. The spark might feel small at first, but it's real, and it's worth paying attention to. What's happening is that the inner work you've done is starting to create momentum. You're moving from cleaning up the past to building the future. But here's the key insight. Fermentation isn't just about passion. It's about preparation. Just like bread rising or wine aging, it takes time. The spark needs nurturing, discipline, care. This stage asks you to stay engaged, even when progress feels slow or uncertain. That means trusting the process, even when results aren't immediate. Giving yourself permission to try and fail without giving up. Letting your vision evolve as you learn more about yourself. Fermentation also means accepting that some parts of the old you are permanently gone, and that's okay. This is where you start to feel the emotional weight of change, but also its purpose. You're becoming someone who doesn't just think differently, but lives differently. This might look like feeling a deeper sense of purpose in your daily routine, reconnecting with creativity after years of neglect, starting something that reflects your growth, even if it's small. Fermentation isn't flashy, it's subtle and slow, but it's powerful. It's the stage where your transformation stops being an internal shift and starts becoming a new way of being in the world. By the time you reach distillation, a lot has changed. You've faced discomfort, let go of the old, and begun to rebuild. Distillation is the stage where you refine everything you've learned into something clear, strong, and stable. You take all the growth so far and purify it down to what really matters. Growth isn't finished just because you've changed. Now you have to protect and clarify that change. Think of distillation like filtering water. You remove even the smallest impurities, not because the water isn't already clean, but because you want it to be crystal clear. In personal terms, this is when you check in with yourself honestly. Are there beliefs or habits sneaking back in that don't fit anymore? Am I really living my values or just talking about them? What distractions are pulling me away from the life I'm trying to build? This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. Distillation sharpens your focus. It's a chance to clean up the subtle noise in your thoughts, routines, and relationships. The goal is to live with more intention and less confusion. Here's something practical. You might notice during this stage that you're more sensitive to things that don't fit, conversations that drain you, habits that waste time, patterns that no longer match who you've become. That's not a setback. It's a signal that you're more aware. This stage might involve simplifying your life so your energy goes where it matters most, recommitting to routines or practices that support your growth, saying no more often, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Distillation is also a chance to integrate hard-earned lessons more deeply. You might revisit earlier struggles, but now with more wisdom. You're refining your identity, not reinventing it. You've already transformed. This is where you focus that transformation into something sustainable. And here's the surprising truth. Clarity often comes quietly, not in a dramatic breakthrough, but in consistent actions, honest reflection, and a growing sense of peace with who you are becoming. Distillation isn't just about seeing clearly, it's about living clearly. The final stage is coagulation, where everything you've worked through finally comes together. But here's what's important. Coagulation isn't about achievement. It's about embodiment. It's the moment when transformation becomes part of you, not just something you did, but something you are. By now, you've burned away what doesn't serve you, let go, found clarity, brought your pieces together, nurtured new life, and refined your truth. Now, in coagulation, it all becomes real, visible in your decisions, your relationships, your presence. Real transformation doesn't end in knowledge. It ends in action that feels natural. You don't have to try to be different anymore. You simply are. This shows up in practical, grounded ways. You respond with patience where you used to react with frustration. You recognize your limits and set boundaries without guilt. You choose what aligns with your values, even when it's harder. Another insight? Coagulation isn't about feeling done. It's about being solid enough to move forward with confidence, knowing you have the tools to keep growing. Life will throw new challenges at you, but now you're equipped. You've built the foundation to meet them with clarity and resilience. This stage might feel quieter than expected. There may not be fireworks or a sense of arrival. Instead, you feel more grounded, more sure of yourself. There's less inner noise, less second guessing. You begin to live from your center. That's the real transformation, when who you've become shows up in how you live without effort or explanation. But coagulation is also a beginning. From this new place, your goals shift. Your purpose evolves, your growth continues, because you're no longer trying to escape discomfort or confusion. You've learned how to use them. So now the question becomes, how will you carry this version of yourself into the world? Not to prove anything, but to create, to contribute, to lead. Because the point of transformation isn't just to feel better, it's to be better and do something with it. You've done the inner work, now it's time to live it.